you. She make a young man groan out of no man pain. Way she took my money was a crying shame.
Slowly, as some of the boys would get homesick or want to get married or this and that, they'd leave, and I would hire Canadian musicians that had been, you know, following us around or watching us, or we knew of them.
The first recruit is a persistent, street-smart Toronto kid. Robbie Robertson would finally claim his spot after a series of heated guitar duels.
Hawk now was always looking to set something like that up, you know, get a couple of real good players and pit them against each other and have them try and just, you know, one of them cut the other until he was bleeding, you know.
Robbie looked at me one day and said, "Fred, you're a great guitar player, but one of these days I'm going to cut you. I'm going to beat you." I said, "Well, okay, your lessons are over, son."
Robbie started getting really good, and just in leaps and bounds, because, you know, he worked at it 7 days a week, night and day.
So from then on stage, I turned my back to Robbie so he couldn't see my fingers. I wouldn't let him see my fingers. I was highly offended.
With Levon and Robbie in the group, the Hawk runs into an apprentice butcher with rock and roll ambitions.
Well, I had never seen a rockabilly live show like the likes of Ronnie Hawkins. Giving up so much energy, you know, showing the people just rockabilly music was just another force, you know, and that was some heavy rock and roll in them days for me. I was so impressed that I booked myself to be his opening act that following spring for 5 shows.
Also gunning for a spot in the Hawks is a Stratford, Ontario soul disciple whose voice immediately catches Hawkins' ear, Richard Manuel.
When it was time for us to need a piano player, I called Richard and he came in. At that time, of course, after having Stan, Celeste, Richard was not quite adequate on the piano, but he could play simple, but Richard had a throat. Richard could really sing that rhythm and blues stuff and soul stuff.
Garth Hudson is the missing piece of Ronnie's musical puzzle.
We needed someone to teach us a little music, and we needed someone to show Richard a lot of stuff. Garth had some kind of a jazz band or something there in London, Ontario. And he'd played with different people, and he was kind of known as the musician's musician.
I talked to Robbie and Levon about playing, and I said, I can't play that stuff, you know, I can't play like that guy, he bleeds. You know.
Ronnie appealed to the musicianship of the band and how much better we all could be with Garth, giving us music lessons and helping us find some teachers to study with and so forth, and let Garth's family know that we weren't just there to, you know, play every club and drink everything in every club that we played. It did have a purpose.
Everything Garth hit seemed to fit. The rest of them, they'd play through things and do this and do that, but Garth would hit notes and music that we weren't familiar with, but it seemed like, man, it just laid right in there, just give it a little push.
Toronto was the best I've ever seen. There were more places to play. Well, if you went on up to North Young and started with Oscar Peterson and Ed Thigpen and people like that who played up in the jazz clubs on the north end, if you came on down and came by the Zanzibar, you might have Billy Riley there from Memphis. You'd come to the Edison Hotel, Carl Perkins would be there. We'd be with the Hawk next door at the Coq Dor. Ray Charles and his orchestra might be around at Massey Hall. Cannonball Adderley and his band would be at the Colonial, and maybe Harry Belafonte down at O'Keefe Center.